Sue Young, and I'm one of the dietitians with Student Health. We've partnered with Pack Pantry to bring you quick and delicious pantry staple dishes. Today we're making Chana Masala. It is chickpeas simmered in a spicy, tangy tomato-based sauce. I was first introduced to this when I lived in India, and it is one of my all-time favorite to-go recipes to this day. You can meal prep it for lunch and have it all week with rice, or you can make it really fast at dinner and have it over like some warm flatbread or, big bowl of warm rice. So what we have today for ingredients, and hopefully you got a chance to pick them up at the pantry, is we're going to use half the onion, but I have a whole onion here. We have our aromatics, which is our ginger and our garlic, a jalapeno, and I'll talk about the jalapeno in a second, our spices, and then a can of chickpeas and a can of tomatoes. So we're going to start off. I have a pan of oil. It's about a tablespoon of oil, and you can really use any oil you have on hand. So if that's an olive oil or a canola oil or a ghee, if you're really fancy, I have that heating up in the pan behind me. And while that heats up, I'm going to just get this onion prepped up. So don't think I cut this onion the way chefs do, so don't judge. What I typically like to do if I have a nice sharp knife, which this one thankfully is still sharp, is you'll see in a second my cheating way of chopping this up. Typically, just so I can save myself some time later, is I'll just chop both onions up and I'll save the other half for like a omelet or a stir fry or a curry for another day. So that way, while I'm already dirty and onion up, I can just get it all done now. So we're just doing a nice quick chop on that. And I'm just gonna put it in a bowl over here so I have lots of space in my cutting board. All right, and for onions, you can also use, like, let's say you have red onions on hand or anything like that, feel free to use another onion. That's really the nice thing about cooking, is that it's so adaptable, like whatever you got on hand. I think last night I put some extra vegetables in my curry, so it doesn't really have to be exact to this recipe. So I'm gonna put this in the pot and then we'll come back and do the aromatics. All right, so these onions are gonna cook until translucent. The more you can cook it down, the more you're really gonna release that flavor and let that oil really cook into it. So this is gonna take several minutes. You'll just wanna stir every so often as you're prepping everything else on your cutting board. So we'll just let that go. All right, so now we're gonna prep our aromatics. So for Indian cooking, the base of literally every single Indian curry dish is gonna be garlic and ginger. So for this recipe, we're gonna try out 2 cloves of garlic. Easiest way well, for me, to peel them is to mash it with the flat side of the knife, being careful always of the blade. And that releases that skin off of the garlic. And then you can mince it up. So because garlic and ginger are such ubiquitous ingredients in Indian dishes, and I make it every week, I tend to keep garlic and ginger always on hand, but I don't want to do it every time. I don't want to get my fingers all garlicky and having to deal with mincing every time. So I'll mince a lot all at once and I'll freeze it. So that way I can just pull it from the freezer, throw it in the pot to get all cooked down, and then I have less work to do every time. If your cutting board is shaking like mine is, you can put a paper towel that has been dampened underneath the cutting board, and that will stop the shaking. But for the purposes of this, watch me keep going. All right, so ginger, like I said, I keep in the freezer because, I buy it like this and then I peel it and then I throw it in the freezer so it doesn't go bad. And then, half an inch. Do I know what half an inch looks like? It looks like that. So then we just mince this just like we did with the garlic. I actually find it a little bit easier also to chop when it's slightly frozen because it's got a little bit more structure to it. So just trying to get that as nice of a mince as possible. Doesn't have to be perfect. And this is my recipe for chana masala, but chana masala is kind of like American mac and cheese. Everybody's got their own version and their own level and variety of spices. So I have like a 1-to-1 ratio of garlic to ginger, and my spices are in like a 1 to, half ratio. So feel free, up whatever you want, however you like it, and when you look up different recipes, they will be different, and that's okay. So last part is not an aromatic, but it is our heat source. So I'm using a jalapeno because it's easy to find in like a Walmart and Aldi or etc. For an Indian dish, traditionally it's an Indian green chili that's used for the spice and heat. Those can be found easily in an Indian market, but like I said, once you have your Indian spices, I kind of just end up going to like the staple big box grocery stores, and they don't always have, typically, an Indian chili. An Indian green chili is, it is not double the spice level of a jalapeno, but it is certainly spicier. And so I like to add all of the seeds in half of a jalapeno, but feel free, take out as much as you want. All that heat is going to be in that membrane, so feel free, take that all out if you're looking for something not so spicy. So same idea, mince it up. Be careful always, of course, of touching your eyes or any open spots on your skin after touching or cutting jalapeno, because it will be really spicy. So there we go. All right, we're just gonna add those in, and those are gonna get really fragrant really fast, about 30 seconds to a minute, so you don't wanna overcook the aromatics or else they'll get bitter. So we're just going to give that a quick toss. You'll start smelling that garlic and ginger smell, maybe a little bit of heat, maybe your nose runs a little bit, that's okay. All right, give that a quick stir, and then we're going to go grab our spices. Have 1 teaspoon of ground coriander, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, half a teaspoon of turmeric, and half a teaspoon of garam masala, and half a teaspoon of salt. Those are all going to get toasted first in the oil and aromatics to release a little bit of that odor and great fragrance and flavor. They really get enhanced flavor with that addition to the oil first, especially before any acid entry. So before the tomatoes get added, before any sort of lemon or anything like that could stop that flavor release. So that gets added, and then all we have is the chickpeas and the tomatoes to add. All right, so then we have a can of drained and rinsed chickpeas. These are just from the store, and then also a can of like crushed, chunk diced tomatoes. You want to keep all the liquid in that one, and we're going to add those both to the pan to get toasted up and simmered. I like to toast the chickpeas a little bit first to get a little bit of that fragrance going, and then I like to add the tomatoes. Stir it all up, get everything coated, and once everything's coated, you're going to bring this to a boil. So we're going to turn this heat up a little bit, bring it to a boil, and then once it comes to a boil, we're going to turn it down to a simmer, and then you're going to simmer for anywhere between 15 and 30 minutes. If you're looking for something over rice, I like to have it a little bit saucier to have that flavor really blend into the rice. If you're looking for something to go with a flatbread like a naan or a roti, I like to have it a little bit thicker, so I want to cook it down more to get that liquid cooked off. So I'll go for like 20 to 30 minutes. Thanks for joining me for making chana masala. I've paired it with some rice. It's always really good also if you want to chop up some fresh cilantro on top for a nice sprig of color and flavor. We have nutrition visits available for students in your student fees, 2 for every student every academic year, so sign up on Healthy Pack portal for those. Feel free also visiting the Pack Pantry. This is essentially for students and staff for use. It's such a great time of need, and so that is definitely available for you guys as well. Thanks again. Until next time.